You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis for all things sport. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, head to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop.
This is the Happy Hour Network.
Pay attention, son. This is for your own good.
This is Joe Simmons Jr. of Time Warner Cable Sports and the Sports Fan Journal, and you're listening to the Earnestly Speaking podcast.
The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Huff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of that. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throb in my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too feeble and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
All right, welcome to the Earnestly Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Ernest E.J. Christian. Once again, subscribe to this podcast at the iTunes Store. Find us on Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Best Ofs, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio. We all over the place, man. Before we get started, once again, shout out to you guys. Happy Thanksgiving. We may have another podcast, I think, this week, too. I think we have one on Friday as well, scheduled. That's still kind of up in the air. We'll figure out. In the meantime, this might be the last podcast of the week. I'm not sure yet. But in the meantime, it's Wednesday. We're talking to Zach, my man, Zack The Degenerate. Zachary, what's going on?
Not much, man. Happy Thanksgiving going on.
My brother, how you doing, man? What you got planned for tomorrow?
Work, man. Watching football at work. It's a dream.
You know, I gotta be honest with you, and we'll talk about this later on in the show. Unless you want to get it out of the way now. I don't know how you feel about that, but I know I actually like, despite the records, I actually like the schedule this year for the Thanksgiving games. I know there are a lot of under 500 teams here, but I kind of feel like these teams are still interesting in a sense. Am I wrong for saying that?
I don't know. I mean, it's like there's at least one atrocious team in each one of the matchups for Thanksgiving, so it's really bad.
Yeah, and you would say, I guess, Dallas and Detroit may have the worst records of the 6 teams playing tomorrow. We're taping this on a Wednesday, so but Detroit's won 2 in a row. Dallas got Tony Romo back, you know, so it's like, okay, well, there's still a lot of stuff going on here. You know, Philadelphia is terrible, but they're still in the playoff race. You know, in the NFC East.
Can you explain to me how Dallas is only like a 1-point underdog? Tony Romo didn't do much for that offense the entire day against Miami, and yet Carolina is still getting disrespected.
But wasn't it? Well, let's take it down because I thought I saw Dallas minus 1 still, right? Is that still the case?
Oh, it's now Dallas -1. I just saw that it opened with Carolina only being like a 1-point favorite.
No, I saw Dallas as a favorite actually, and they're still the favorite, 1.5 points. Actually, 1.5 point.
Oh, that's just terrible.
Well, the thing is, you know what? Let's do that first. Let's go to we'll get to other topics in a second. Let's go to the Thanksgiving games out of the way. Like even this Philly Detroit game is interesting, you know, because Detroit, they won 2 in a row. They still have playmakers, you know. They still got, you know, Calvin and Stafford when he wants to play well, you know, Golden Tate or whatever. Philly is interesting because they suck, but they're still in the race in NFC East. But they also are an intriguing team because of this whole Chip Kelly thing, you know. And then Adam Schefter yesterday, I heard, was talking about how the report he put out yesterday, it came off as though like both sides are just tired of each other, like Chip Kelly and the Eagles administration, whatever you want to call it. So I find like this game is really intriguing. This on the onset of those things that is presented to you. And it's not really a bad game on this docket, even though there are a lot of mediocre to sub 500 teams on this roster of Thursday games. Go ahead.
I don't know, man. I see Detroit probably getting blown out, or I just had this bad feeling for Detroit, and then Carolina. Honestly, I think their defense will just show up and shut them out.
Okay.
I think this could be blowout.
Yeah.
And then the Green Bay game is scheduled to be a blowout.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's do this real quick then. Let's get to our picks quickly on Thanksgiving games. First game, Detroit, Philly at Detroit. Detroit 2.5-point favorites. Like you logically want to take Detroit in this game or Philly because Philly is really the better team. But then once again, I'm assuming Mark Sanchez is starting again this week, right?
I would take Philly just for the simple fact you know exactly what Detroit can and can't do. They can't run the ball, so all you have to do is guard against the pass. And just for that, I would take Philly to win by a touchdown or more. I don't like the Lions.
I think a lot of people do, but Philly's always that team. Even as bad as they are this year, they're that team that always, when you count them out, whenever you say, "Okay, I'm done with them. I'm done taking chances on the Eagles," then that's the week. The week that you stop taking chances on the Eagles, that's the week that when they actually come out and win the game that you would have bet the week before or 2 weeks before that. And I feel like this game has that over it. I like Philly here, to be honest with you, because I just think that the desperation, I think Chip Kelly will find a way, even with Mark Sanchez playing, if he is the starter tomorrow, which I don't even know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, see, I had also heard there was talk maybe Bradford coming back. So,
well, Bradford's back. Yeah.
If Sanchez starts, he can do something. He's just got to be smart and not turn the ball over. That's all they got to do.
Yeah, I agree. Just don't do it. But, that's easier said than done. Easier said than done, Let me ask you a question about Philly real quick and Chip Kelly. If you're the Eagles, do you consider firing the guy at the end of the year? Because I said on the podcast yesterday, I said no, because I think he has too much power. He
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay, good.
The mistake here in Philly was going with Bradford, but what you had at quarterback wasn't going to get you anywhere. And you can pretend that Sanchez would have done better, but he hasn't done better than Bradford so far. So to think he would have done better to start the season, no. What he did was he tried to make a move to find a better quarterback. And the Eagles got lucky as all hell that Bradford wanted to bet on himself, because they would have been held up in a terrible contract had he signed for multi years and $multi-million during the preseason.
Didn't we say that over the summer, like during August, that was really risky for him to do that? Bradford to say, wait.
Well, it came at the perfect time. He had his best game in the preseason, and that's what made the Eagles think they had to act fast and offer him a multi-year deal. And honestly, the Eagles got super lucky that he passed on the contract and bet on himself.
And I kind of hate the culture. Go ahead.
Who's going to come available now is Colin Kaepernick. And I'm sure that Chip Kelly's dreaming about having him run his offense.
I'll tell you what, him and RG3 will have suitors this offseason. Believe me, they will.
RG3 is not going to get a chance at a starting job for the simple fact he buried himself.
You think so?
And RG3 doesn't want to run anymore. Colin Kaepernick doesn't care. He will still run.
And the value of Kaepernick too. He'll be a bargain for any team at this point, because I believe now the Niners have played almost all his guaranteed money to him.
But they're both bargains. They're both going to be free agent signings.
There's too many bad quarterbacks in the league to not take a chance on these guys at this point, who've done something at some point in their career.
I would just see Chip Kelly drooling all over the chance of Colin Kaepernick.
I agree with you. I agree.
And G3 just sitting on the side.
I agree. Game number 2, Carolina at Dallas. Dallas 1.5 point favorites. I picked Dallas to win this game. Actually, I said on Sunday that I think this is the game where Carolina finally gets the loss because I think Dallas with Romo. And I know Romo was rusty against Miami, but you still see the difference of this Cowboys team when he's in the lineup.
And again, I'm the other way. I think Carolina wins this easily.
Easily?
I think they have a vendetta for being made a underdog. If you're going to make a team like that an underdog, or even if you were to keep them as a 1-point favorite with the betting public, that's total disrespect for a 10-0 team. And why? Because a guy who barely generated any offense for Dallas is back in town? No.
This is what I see here. Look, everybody's so surprised about the line. Here's why I wasn't surprised. Because, number one, it's Romo back with Dallas, obviously. They're at home. That's number one. Number two, they're at home. Number three, short week. Carolina's traveling on a short week. And I feel like, I'm not saying Carolina can't win this game, obviously. I mean, this is virtually a pick-em at this point. But, I can see where Vegas is going with that. And it didn't, everybody was acting like they were shocked. It didn't shock me at all. I'll say it again. Dallas is different when Tony Romo's in the lineup. And you saw it against Miami, even though he's rusty.
I saw a pick-six in Miami. That was their saving grace. Yeah, Tony Romo had to do some magic in the fourth quarter, but other than that, he went 3 quarters. He's not ready to come back and be a deciding factor in the game.
I'll say this much. It'll be Carolina's defense that wins this game, not Cam. I'll say that much. So, I like Dallas this game, though. You like Carolina, right?
Yeah, I love Carolina in this game.
Final game of the night of Thanksgiving, the night game. Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay 8.5 point favorites. I don't know what to make of the Packers yet. Like they look decent against Minnesota, but I feel like Minnesota was a little bit nervous for the moment. I feel like it was too soon for this team. I feel like they could have actually still won this game had they not turned the damn ball over a few times late in the game. Green Bay. I mean, I think with Green Bay here, like they won a game they had to win. That's it. I'm not convinced they're still as good as Carolina or Arizona, for that matter. And Chicago, I think Green Bay will win this game, but I think Chicago's been really, really competitive all year long. They're a lot better than we all thought they were going to be this year. And this game might be a lot closer. Like I'm actually willing to take Chicago on the points here, to be honest with you.
I would take Chicago plus the points. Until I see Green Bay play the way they're supposed to be capable of,
yeah,
I have no trouble taking Chicago, even on the road, getting 9. 9 points.
Yeah, and especially if Forte's back. I don't know if he's playing or not. I haven't seen injury reports yet, but if Forte and Jeffries are back this Thursday, which I would imagine if they're even able to walk, they would try to play this game, especially because Thanksgiving and the rivalry and the whole 9. Chicago.
Langford's been good.
Huh?
Langford has been really good for Chicago, and they play for Forte. So
Chicago's frisky, man.
I don't think this one.
They've been frisky. There's about 3-4 games this year they could have won, and they're easily at least 6-4.
I will say John Fox and Adam Case have done a tremendous job with controlling Jay Cutler.
Yes, I agree.
And I'm shocked at the turnaround. I thought they would be terrible this year.
I thought they'd bottom out, to be honest with you. I thought they would bottom out, find a way to get the Cutler contract and all that, but they've actually been very competitive. And I think if they can build this offseason, I think this is something they can be a player back in North again. Because they have the talent to do it. I mean, they have got really good players.
Work on that offensive line and continue to build the defense. They got the offensive weapons.
And Cutler's not that bad this year. He hasn't been that bad. Can't say that. Can't say he's been bad this year. Well, we'll get back to the NFL. Actually, you know what? Do you want to do the rankings now? Do you feel like doing the rankings now? You want to get the rankings out of our system? Because I know you're itching to get that out of the way.
Well, I mean, I didn't put too much effort into it. I know you got like Seattle up there.
Bro, wow! Wait! How do you assume that already? I mean, really? My last 3 weeks they were in my rankings. Why do you assume they're in my rankings this week?
We're talking again, so I figured that's why they'll be in there.
You know what? Let's do it now because the rankings will get us fired up. We'll get the NFL out of the way, then we'll do the NBA stuff. I really want to go heavy NBA too today. It's been a while since I've done that.
Definitely.
Okay, let's do the rankings quickly. All right, Ted, what do you got?
Number 10, I had Buffalo. I just like the players, and I like the coach.
I do too. Then on my 10, they were right there. I was gonna almost put them in there. Here's where I think this is where I think they'll make my rankings and probably even a little bit higher if they can get these next 2 weeks. Their playoff lives are going to be decided next 2 weeks. I truly believe that. Because their schedule...
Congestion right there, the sixth spot in the wild card, so...
Yeah.
I don't know if it will matter.
The next two games? Kansas City?
Yeah, I think it could really go all the way to the last game of the season with just how bunched up it is for the sixth seed.
Right. Kansas City and Houston are the next two games. At Kansas City and then Houston at home. And both teams are identical record with them. And so basically I think their lives will be pretty much shaped these next 2 weeks in terms of their... And I think they could go... Even if they split this, I think it'd be fine.
So who do you have at 10?
You know? So I got 10. I got Seattle.
Seattle, huh?
Well, you know, it's funny. Like the wild card race in the NFC is kind of clearing up a little bit now. You know, and I feel like if you had to decide between Tampa, Atlanta, and Seattle, which all separate by one game, who do you really trust of the three teams going into this last stretch? I mean, Tampa, I guess you want to see more. Atlanta's frauds, and we know this.
Well, see, I think Atlanta's been the one out of the three teams who hasn't been helped by a blatantly bad call flagged by the refs. I would say Atlanta still has that one victory to add to their schedule. So I would start to take Atlanta with getting a wild card seed.
They didn't get a win, man. They didn't get a win, and every time they you know.
Well, you got to count on the refs. I mean, they gave one to Seattle. They've given one to Tampa. They're owed one as well. And if they get one from the refs, then I think that'll skew the odds.
Well, they had the leg up. That helps them a lot. But I just the trust thing, and then now it's coming to fruition. They lost 4 or 5, and they're losing games to teams like Indy is not that good, you know. And without Andrew Luck, I know Haspec's street on. Everyone's gonna pound that whole thing, but come on now. Who do you want your quarterback?
Come on now. We've got more victories on the coach team this year.
I don't know, man. Atlanta's a scary. I think Seattle, if the schedule is not. I mean, it's semi doable. I think 9 and 7 could be enough in that division, in that conference to get a wild card, and I think Seattle is probably the best bet to grab it. You know, and Atlanta plays Minnesota this week too, which I think is a huge game for both these teams. All right, number 9, you got.
At number 9, I have Kansas City. To go on the roll they've been on, to get back into the playoff hunt, you just got to give them some props. 4-0 in their last 4 games.
I almost put them in there too. I mean, and not only that, they beaten Denver, a couple good teams in this last 4-game stretch. You know.
Yeah, and they're in the first game till the very end with Denver. And that was when Denver was actually playing great football.
Right. I mean, I don't know if I say great football, but the defense that was playing out of this world. I have no problem with that at all. Kansas City is scary, and I think, you know, there's actually there's 7 teams in the AFC wildcard race that are separated by 1 game.
Exactly.
By the way, I'm not including Pittsburgh in that. Pittsburgh is 6-4. I think they'll take care of business and lock up the 5 seed. You know, that 6 seed though is 7 teams for grabs. And I gotta tell you, I mean, to me, it's either Buffalo or Kansas City who I have most confidence in closing out. You know what I'm saying? Because the defenses and then all that. Number 9 for me, I went home. I won't say I went homer here, but I went New York Giants because I think
The Giants and come on, man.
Here's the thing. Well, you get
honest,
first off, you get mad at me for when I don't put my top 10 because I'm not homer enough, and then when I do it, you get mad at me for that. What is that? What is that, Zachary?
You're a homer for Seattle this year. That's where your homer bias has been. How many people have?
Well, what do you want, the Giants?
Oh, they didn't even play this week.
Well, yeah, and that helps. They didn't lose.
Otherwise, they'd have a loss.
Well, for the record, they're number 10 last week on my list. I thought that they played the best game of the year against the Patriots.
But you moved them up. You moved them up on last week's list without even playing a game.
Look, I'm going based on what I think I'm projecting on this one. Also, okay. And by the way, we got a date this week, Zachary. Washington this week, then the Jets, at Miami, Carolina, at Minnesota, and Philly. I can see 3 for ones there. I can see 3 for ones there.
I don't think they'll win the division.
You think Redskins win the division?
No, I'm not making a comment on the division. Just as long as the doesn't.
Oh my God! They got a pass rush again now. This is good. They got a pass rush again. All of a sudden, Pierre Paul comes back with 3.5 fingers, and they can rush the quarterback.
I guess it's half of admitting.
Yeah. Hey, whatever works, man. Right. All right. Number 8. Who you got?
Yeah. At number 8, I have Denver.
Wow.
I'm not going to buy into Brock Osweiler. And the defense is starting to give up a few points here and there. So if I had to put them up against the next 2 teams on my list, I would think they would lose right now. So I had to put them at number 8. I know they only have 2 losses, but their defense is not blowing me away lately. Right. And that's what kept them up so high.
What's your thoughts on Brock? Did you like what you saw? Osweiler?
Like I said, I'm not going to buy into it. I think everyone in the world thought they would go out there and have a strong run game for his first start, and so his stat line looks pretty good. Now they know he can throw a little bit. Let's see if the corners pay attention this week.
But I think it's not to ask for a defense to keep playing that way in today's NFL and being the provider to win games. You know, like their offense has been so bad this year. You know, and the defense has literally punched all their games that it's hard to always to ask that defense to every single week go out and win me a game again. You know what I mean? That's kind of the offense's job, really. To be honest with you, you know. So, I'll give him a pass there. I see why you put him that low, though. I totally understand why. Although I think this week's game against New England will definitely be a telltale of where they head the rest of the year. Number 8, I went Pittsburgh, though. Number 8, I thought the Steelers, you know, I wish Le'Veon Bell was healthy, because I think if he's healthy, this team is, I'll say it again, still the biggest threat in the AFC to New England.
I totally agree with that. If Big Ben's playing, they are the threat.
Yeah. But, you know, everything that's gone wrong for this team has gone wrong. Like, Ben gets hurt, Le'Veon Bell gets hurt, you know, a couple of guys, you know, have been banged all year long. But that receiving core is still lethal, you know. And as long as those guys stay upright, I think the AFC is not all that good anyway. I think even without Le'Veon Bell, and given the injuries the Patriots have faced the last couple weeks now, maybe the tide has turned a little bit. Maybe the balance has shifted just a bit. Go ahead.
I just think with that passing attack, you open up the run game. So you can lose Le'Veon Bell, but D'Angelo Williams, he's going to have big games because you have to be so guarded against either Martavius Brennan blowing the top off or Antonio Brown on a crossing route. It's just so dangerous to their offense that it doesn't matter who you put in there. As long as Big Ben can stand up and take the snap, they're the best shot against New England when it comes to the playoffs.
And the AFC is starting to balance out a little bit. It's starting, like, I know the records don't really show that because of the Patriots still being 10-0, but with all the injuries and stuff, and you're starting to see a little bit of cracks in the armor the Patriots.
Well, I mean, how many offensive linemen can you lose before there really is a struggle on offense?
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, 7.
At number 7, I have Minnesota.
So do I. And they stay here. Actually, no, they were 5 last week for me. I apologize. We didn't do a podcast last week, so you didn't know that. I didn't drop them low because I thought, like, this game was Green Bay was kind of one of those, like, we were like, they were nervous, I guess. They just a little too bit for the moment right now. But that doesn't mean they're not a good team. They got out of the system now.
And the school is more of one of those where they finally excelled in after having won all those games in a row.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I didn't put much of a knock on them. I was really rooting for him to beat your boy Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But Teddy Bridgewater isn't ready yet to carry a team when it matters most. And a run, you can have an outstanding run game, but if your quarterback can't carry you, you're going to struggle at times.
And the concern here too with the Vikings as well is their schedule. It gets insane. They play Seattle. They play I think is it Pittsburgh on that list too. They got a schedule from hell. They got Atlanta. I think Atlanta. To be honest, you can really consider this week against Atlanta like the toughest game, the easiest game to schedule, considering the way everybody's been playing.
Well, I think I beat Minnesota.
What's that?
The defense that they have, I can see Matt Ryan turning the ball over, and they just struggling to get going. So I'm not too concerned with the Minnesota-Atlanta game.
At Atlanta, Seattle, at Arizona, Chicago, Frisky, Giants, Frisky, at Packers, which could be for the division, depending on how they look. That's tough. And I think they're going to need at least 9 wins to make to at least. They're going to need at least 10 wins to feel secure. So find me 3 wins out of there. Atlanta could be one.
Atlanta gets for sure. They'll beat the Giants.
You assume that, of course.
And honestly, right now, I think they can still beat Seattle. Is it in Seattle or in Minnesota?
It's at home. It's at home.
Yeah, then I think that they have a shot at beating Seattle, too.
Okay. I have some Minnesota, too. Number 6, you got?
At number 6, Pittsburgh.
I like that. I'm glad you took some balls and put the Steelers up high. And I think you're projecting. Now they're only 2 back in the division. Well, really 3 when you count the tiebreaker. What kind of chance you give them to win the division?
I don't think they can win the division. Honestly, I think they're stuck having to be a road playoff team all the way through. But if someone's going to beat New England, it would have to be Pittsburgh. And I don't think Andy Dalton will show up in the primetime playoff game to beat Tom Brady, so they're out. And everyone else in the AFC is looking weak right now at some facet. Even Denver. If you don't have a competent quarterback, then I don't think you're going to stand a chance in the playoffs.
I agree. Like I said, I wish Le'Veon Bell was healthy because, everything is balancing out properly in the AFC the way it should be. And as long as the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have any more catastrophic injuries again, they should be fine the rest of the way. I think the wild card is a given at this point. We talk about the big 8 teams and for 2 spots in the AFC wild card spot. But to be honest with you, I think Pittsburgh is really. It just feels like they're a lock for the 5. You know what I mean? It feels like they're good enough. They're just a step ahead of them. So
you're really playing for that one playoff spot.
Yeah. 6 have Green Bay.
I with Kansas City or Buffalo getting that other one in the AFC.
Right. 6 have Green Bay.
Yeah.
Okay, they won a game, had to win, and that's all it is to me. They still a lot of question marks. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played a better game this week, but once again, it's look, I'll temper down the Aaron Rodgers stuff a little bit. I'll temper that down. He's still great. He's still top 2 in the league. He's not. I mean, if you want to give it to Brady this year, fine, give it to Brady for this year. And I wish we had more time to discuss this because like we were having talk, the last couple of weeks on, when we do podcasts, and the Aaron Rodgers thing came up a lot between you and I in text about, what's the issue with the Packers? Why aren't they winning games? And then Aaron Rodgers, what's going on with him? Yeah, to me, he checks on every single thing you do as a quarterback except the one huge one, and leadership. Leadership is one of the biggest problems that Aaron Rodgers has in terms of, what separates Brady from everybody else and what separates Peyton Manning from everybody else and some of the other greats. Aaron Rodgers, to me, sometimes when things aren't going well, I mean, it just falls apart. And to me, that's like, that's concerning. That's got to be a little concerning now.
Well, if the playoffs were to go, I would say Palmer's better than Rodgers and Newton's better than Rodgers in the NFC.
I won't go so far.
I think with the playoff teams right now in the NFC, he's the third best quarterback.
I'm not ready to go that far just yet. I'm not ready to go that far because you put Rodgers on those other teams. Well, maybe Rodgers on Arizona at least. They may be unbeaten themselves.
Well, I think those teams. I think the players on Arizona have the confidence that Carson Palmer can bring them back no matter what the deficit is. They trust his arm. They know he'll stand in there, take the punishment. And they look at it over the last couple of years. The reason why they struggled in the playoffs or just missed the playoffs was because Carson Palmer had gotten hurt. So, honestly, I think as long as they have that man in their backfield to take the height, they believe they can beat anybody.
I'll give you this.
And with Cam Newton, he's going to go out there and do whatever it takes.
I'll give you this. Palmer is playing better than Rodgers. I'll give you that. But you're never going to convince me he's better than Rodgers overall. That's not going to happen. Not happen. No chance. No chance. Not happening there.
Okay.
All right, number 5.
Number 5, I have Green Bay.
Okay. That's pretty high, actually, considering how you've been knocking them. Why so high?
Well, the other teams in front of them are better, and the teams behind Green Bay, I think Green Bay can beat.
True.
Minus 6, I had to keep at 6 because of the number of losses.
Right. 5, I got Denver. And they should be a little lower, too. But I want to give them credit here. They still won a game, Chicago, against a really tough team. I won't say they're good, but they're tough, with the backup quarterback. And, look, I don't care who you are, and that's still tough to do, even with that talent on that team. And I want to see, I put them in the middle of the Pats. I want to see exactly what happens this week against New England, because I think the Pats, even though the Pats are the better team and they probably are the favorites to win this game, I do think there's an opportunity for the Broncos here, because I don't think the Pats are invincible right now. I think that if there's a time to steal a win from the Patriots, now's the time to do it.
Oh yeah, and I mean it sets up perfect for the defensive front of Denver versus the offensive line for the Patriots. You're talking about a team who's rotating someone into a different position every week versus a defensive line that all they do is attack. And they go 4 and 5 deep on a pass rush.
Right. All right, 4?
At number 4, I have Cincinnati.
I do too. I think 4 will be the same for the most part. I thought they played great on Sunday. I thought, outside those mistakes in the end of the game, I thought they were really in position to win that game. They beat themselves.
I was shocked in that game.
I'm not.
I would have thought that would have been a huge blowout, and it should have been a huge blowout, but
I think they showed me something in that game, but what I'm concerned of is the things that happened in the game is why I can't trust them. You come back, you tie the game, and you give Palmer, what was it, 20-something, 40-something seconds to go with no timeouts, maybe one timeout, and they go down the field with ease, plus a dumb penalty on top of that, and you get the kicker to win the game. You can't do that. I mean, that was a playoff atmosphere of that game. That was a playoff atmosphere. And maybe even like a sneaky Super Bowl preview. Who knows? I doubt it's going to happen, but still. And those are the things that Cincinnati has to work on. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say the primetime thing is 100% a thing, but the sample's increasing now. The sample is increasing, where they don't play well when the bright lights are on. Although I will say,
I think you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Although I will say they did show me a lot of good things on that game because Arizona is a team who I think is the best team in the NFC, in my opinion, despite record.
Okay.
So, all right, 3.
That's 3. I have Arizona.
Arizona 2. And I'll say it again. Arizona, once again, I think, you know, and it's not a knock on Carolina. It's just that I think when you look at rosters, you know, who do you trust? You're going to lean Zona. This is how I feel. With a healthy Palmer, to me, okay. To me, it's an easy answer for me.
Oh, I totally agree. I just got done saying it. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFC right now.
All right, 2, Carolina, for me.
Yeah.
You got Carolina also?
Yeah. And New England won.
Yeah, I was surprised. I'm
I
surprised.
don't even think you have to talk about them. I mean, they get talked about so much, everyone knows about it.
Oh, I wanted to ask you. The whole Cam Newton dancing thing last week, what was your thoughts on that?
I thought that was the biggest joke. And, you know, you hear all these TV commentators, and they make points about race. We work in an industry where guys, all they do is want to talk sports. I didn't hear a single person complain about his dance. Not one person who talked about football over the weekend brought up Cam Newton's dance. So I don't know where this outrage is or who's outraged other than people seeking attention, because the players on the field, they were upset. Well, guess what? Don't let them get in. And he wouldn't have done another 5 seconds of his dance if he wouldn't have shoved him.
Not only that.
So I totally overblown.
Not only that, the same guy that came and complained about it, the Tennessee player that came and complained about it, the same guy that was dancing when you sacked him early in the game.
Oh, yeah. See, and that's one of those things. You watch people do a dance now, a 5-second dance for getting a first down or getting a tackle. To now be upset that someone did a dance in your end zone after a touchdown, it's ridiculous.
It's stupid.
Stop getting upset and put your big boy pants on and own up to it.
I agree. It's to me, it's like, okay, like find me a better story. I mean, this team is 10-0, and we're talking about a guy dancing. Look, I know it's not common for quarterbacks to. I mean, Aaron Rodgers does a little discount double check in the end zone and whatnot, but outside of that, I mean, I know it's not a common thing though, but I hate to say it again because I don't do this, Zach, but there is a lot of racial undertones in this thing. I'm sorry, because
I know the only people that seem to see it are people in the media. How many people have spoken to you at your job, Ernest, about, oh my gosh, I wish that black quarterback wouldn't do a dance?
No, nobody talked to about it outside of the media.
Okay. It's one of these made-up things that people want to argue about. Like, I never heard a single Christian get upset with the Starbucks guy. So, good Lord, it had to be on Facebook for a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that gets perpetrated that no one actually speaks
right.
about.
I didn't even, and it's funny that the whole Starbucks thing, I didn't even know that was a thing to begin with. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, oh, okay. Move on. Real problems.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's move on to real problems. Seriously, the homeless or, you know, things like that. Cops? Really? Dancing in the end zone? Really? Come on. Priorities, man. By the way, who loses first? Pats or Panthers?
Who will lose first?
Yeah.
I would say Carolina loses at some point during the regular season. I don't think the Pats will lose during the regular season, and I haven't looked too hard at Carolina's schedule. I took a glance at it. And I always thought there might be one team that could beat them before the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It would not shock me to see both teams undefeated going into the playoffs.
Right. All right.
Who do you got?
I have Panthers losing tomorrow, so there you go. There's your answer.
All right. Then, man,
let's do something we have not done this podcast, you and I, in quite a while, and I think we're happy to do this. Let's talk some NBA. Golden State Warriors get the record 60-0, best start in NBA history. I mean, I'm worried out. I mean, that's all I've heard, all I've talked about. All I'm here when we talk NBA, that's all I hear about. But it's justifiably, it's justifiable at this point because this team's amazing.
I'm worth talking about something good, something where there's no actual controversy, just something wholesome and good to talk about.
Who knew that Zach likes wholesome? Who knew? That's awesome.
I love an honest team. I hate seeing team turmoil because of a loss. One loss on one of the better teams in the league. Oh, there's turmoil. I hate seeing that. So to see a team that is 16-0 right now, there's no infighting. No one's trying to take more of the accolades than anyone else. I love it.
Yeah. I made I don't know if I said it on the pod yet. I haven't said it on the pod yet. This is going to be the first time saying this on the podcast. Steph Curry. The sample's small. It's about a year and a quarter of this dominance. He's been this assassin, Steph Curry, this elite, Steph Curry. I made a point to a friend of mine a couple days ago that I've only seen four players in the history of this game have a sample of a 2, 3, 4 year stretch where they were as dominant a force and effective on their team and themselves as a player that I've ever seen in this league. I go back to Larry Bird in the mid-'80s, from 84 to 87, where people forget there was a period where Larry Bird was absolutely better than everybody in the league. We're talking about young Jordan, talking about Magic, Dr. J.
Yeah.
There was a period for 3 years where Larry Bird was far. Yeah, there was a period in the mid-'80s that Larry Bird was better than everybody and wasn't even close. Then you had Jordan in like 89 to 93, but he was this peak Jordan, and I'll even give you 96 Jordan, because that's when the year this game really came around totally. Then you have Shaq for like 99, 2002-ish, 2003-ish. I'll go LeBron from like 09 to like 2013, dominant. And I think Steph right now, while the sample's small, it's growing. Steph is on that pinnacle now, where this guy is like out of this world great. Like he's no longer it's not enough to say he's the best player in the NBA or the best point guard. To me, he's playing at a level that very few players in the history of this game has ever reached. I mean, the numbers support it, and then the team. And to me, also what's important is that the team wins translate to it also, because the Warriors are winning 60+ games like there's no tomorrow.
No, I can totally agree with that whole point right there. And it's not, and you're right, it's not an argument about whether or not he is the best player in the league. It's the total dominance of the league for an extended period of time. And I think that's what's breathtaking and really is being missed, because they want to just compare him to shooters or to play whether or not he's the best player and arguing. There should be an examination of what he's actually doing and what it looks like compared to other points in time.
Like the question people should be asking, because I hate this conversation because we're such a black and white community, a community of people now in terms of how we look at things, whether it be in politics or in sports. So now the question is always, well, who's the best player in the league now? LeBron James or Steph Curry? And look, listen, to me, it's still LeBron James. He's still the best player in the league, okay? He just at a different point in his career now. The question you should be asking isn't so much who's the best player. It's right now who's the most impactful player in the league. And to me, it's Steph Curry, and it's not even close. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, except Steph Curry is the best player in the league.
Maybe so.
LeBron has been dethroned. To say impactful versus best, that is the point.
When I say that, I think, look, I don't want LeBron fans to go pissy at me because I'm not knocking LeBron here. It's more so LeBron is at a point now where he's on a different level now. He's on a different priority when it comes to the game of basketball. He has like 5 years on Steph Curry, so number one, that's obvious. His job right now is solely to stay healthy till April.
Right now, just like most impactful, if you wanted to go with, instead of calling him the best player, is Steph Curry. Yeah, as a whole career that has been played so far, yeah, LeBron's better, but he's not the best player now. He doesn't have the impact on the game the way Steph Curry does.
That Clippers game last week, Zach, and I think you saw that game too. That Clippers game last Thursday, when they were down 10, and it was like 6 minutes and 10 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. Like, I always knew to come back. I was like, they're going to come back. And to me, and I'm watching the comeback, Steph hits a three-pointer.
Yeah.
And then
for me, LeBron packed it up and said, you know what, I'll call it a day.
Right.
And I'll just move on to the next game.
Right, because I
need
to stay healthy.
Player, you're no longer the best player.
Right.
Player shows up to win every game, and that's Steph Curry.
And here's the thing with the impact we're talking about here, the impact and whatnot. When Steph gets going, even when the Warriors are down like double digits, like late in the game, it's like when he gets a shot going, it immediately galvanizes the entire team. All of a sudden, everything changes. Everything, the world, like the planet's on its axis, and all of a sudden he gets going, and then all of a sudden Iguodala gets a three-pointer, and then all of a sudden Barbosa's getting a three-pointer. It's like one of those things where the impact is actually it's transferable to not just Steph, but also to other players too. That's what I mean by impact. And that's how the game went against the Clippers last week, where once Steph got going, everybody else got theirs too. So
yeah, I just see if you're trying to change the words and make an impact, it's because you just don't want to come out and say he's the best player.
I'll tell you who's not the best player anymore, though. Kobe Bryant. Dude.
Can you remember when he was the best player?
He was what, ranked 90th this year, come to the year?
Yes, and every basketball aficionado was so pissed about it. Yeah, the experts were actually right, and they were wrong because he was even worse.
Yeah, 90th was a little high, actually. and it's not even a little high. This has got to be it, man, right? There's no way Kobe's taking a lesser role, okay? And at this point, he's not going to change his game now. This late in the game, when he hasn't even tried to change his game at any point. If you were going to try to become a facilitator, that should have started 3-4 years ago.
And see, that's the thing. He would have to change his game until he is a pure jump shooting three-point specialist, and he's not. He's never had that kind of shooting skill. He is a drive to the basket, get a foul, hit clutch shots. But as an actual shooter, he had a step-back jumper for a few years, but he spent too much time trying to get there, and he lost it years ago now.
It's sad to see this happen.
No, I mean, you knew it was coming. If you weren't willing to see it coming, it was because he was one of your favorite players, and you just didn't want to see it coming.
But no, yes, but we always knew. I think you and I discussed this years ago too on podcasts as early as 5 years ago, that we knew that when the end came for Kobe Bryant, the end was going to be bad, because we never saw Kobe Bryant changing his game to gracefully, like the way Tim Duncan did at his position, change his game a little bit.
Yeah.
Take less minutes. Kobe Bryant approached the game even last year and even now as though he's 25 years old. He's playing 30-plus minutes a game. He still expects to score at least 20-plus a game. And that's not who he is anymore. And even when he is that guy, like once in every 10 nights, it's not at the benefit of the Lakers at this point.
The one thing I thought could have changed his game around was becoming more of a facilitator. But the fact that the rest of the league knows his offensive game is gone, they're no longer scared of him. So his ability to throw those assists, they don't exist the way they did even 2 years ago.
Right. It's a sad day. I mean, do you even see a scenario where he goes somewhere else, and try one more year at another, like say New York or I don't know. I don't. Maybe Europe.
Yeah, and that talk that he's playing so bad because of what's around him. No, because he's missing the wide open jump shots. They're coming up short. He can't drive by anybody in the league anymore. And he double clutches on his threes. So there's nothing that says, oh, if I had better talent around, he would still be of decent use.
Yeah.
And there's just no semblance of that. His decision comes on whether or not he will eventually retire during the season or let it hold out and try and get every dime from the Lakers.
Right. Yeah. It's sad to say, but we all saw this coming. We all saw this coming, and the sad part is too. Also, we got a lot of basketball we played. So unless he decides to retire in the middle of the year, which I doubt he does because he wants that money, yeah, I doubt. Yeah, it could get worse. I don't think I don't think that will define his career. Obviously, but the thing is though. This is worse than Jordan Washington. Jordan Washington was still actually not that bad.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what he's thinking he can do. But the injuries he suffered, MJ never went through.
No.
And MJ had that 2-year period of time away from basketball that saved his legs.
Mm-hmm.
So the amount of time might be the same as far as the minutes played and the amount of playoff games. But Kobe Bryant did it nonstop, year in, year out. So when Father Time first hit, it hit with a vengeance. And there was never going to be a getting away from Father Time.
Right.
But I will say this, he is the luckiest person I've seen since maybe Derek Jeter when it comes to retiring and not having that stellar season. Because if you look at what Peyton Manning's going through with the constant analysis and comments on TV, Kobe Bryant's skating through this season. He's
skating now because right now the NFL is the number one ticket right now in the sports world. But if this continues into February, March, and the NFL has already completed their season, believe me, it will be more dissected into the latter part of the season. Believe me. The reason why Kobe's getting away with it now is because of the fact that you have Golden State is 16-0 and then doing their thing. The NFL is a bigger story, so obviously the NFL will always overtake the NBA right now in November. But believe me, if this is continuing in February, March into April, believe me, it will be a larger story.
Why? Because he might, by February or March, he could just be sitting on the bench getting 15 to 20 minutes, or missing four games, 5 games in a row, and coming back to play 1 or 2, and then missing again 4 or 5 because of injury, and never taking any kind of the heat that Peyton Manning's taken.
To me, and I was going to ask this question anyway, to me, so far, they are the most disappointing team in the league right now. Because the Lakers are, and I'll tell you why. It's not that they're bad; they're worse than we thought. Like I thought they would at least compete for an 8 spot in the Western Conference. I thought they had enough good players in that roster to at least figure something out. Kobe could be a little bit Kobe, maybe be 18 points a game Kobe and facilitate. You have a couple of guys in that roster that's done something in their career that can at least maybe for 1 year figure it out. Maybe win 38 to 42 games. This team, Zach. I'll be honest with you. I think the Lakers are the worst team in basketball, and that includes the Philadelphia 76ers. At least Philly, even at 0-15, is more competitive than the Lakers are.
And
that's sad to say. Zach, that's sad to say that. That is sad to say.
I still want to watch the Lakers. Even if Kobe's not playing, I still want to watch the Lakers just to see how D'Angelo Russell and Randall are playing. I do want to see those two guys and see what happens. So when I think of the 76ers, I don't think of watching them because I think they're trying to lose. I think they're not even trying to put a product out on the floor to win a game.
Which is sad, number one.
At least the Lakers, I think they try and win a game.
Yeah. But I've actually watched a couple of their games this year. And they have pieces. They have some pieces there. And they are competitive. They're not like one of those teams where, they lose every game by 20-something points. They could beat Miami on Saturday. They could beat Minnesota a couple nights ago in Minnesota. There's a couple of games they could have won this year against Houston, against a couple of the teams in the West that they were in. Philadelphia, for me, at least shows some life. LA, not so much. And that's what LA winning 2 games already this year. I think LA is the worst team in basketball. I'm sorry.
What about Brooklyn?
Huh?
What about Brooklyn? They're pretty bad, too.
Yeah. So they're my disappointing team of the year so far. What's yours?
The worst team in basketball is just not...
No, disappointing team. What's disappointing team for you?
Most disappointing team is Houston.
Oh.
Harden has turned into Kobe Bryant. Harden is shooting like 31% from the floor, or 38% from the floor, and only like 31% from the three.
I think it's worse now.
Just stop shooting. Yeah. Just stop shooting. You're taking 25 shots a game. You are worse than Carmelo being a black hole, and you're supposed to be a facilitator. No one gets touches on Houston because of James Harden. I always thought that team was still going to be a playoff team, and the way Harden's playing, me first and let me try and win an MVP because I think I got robbed, that's killing that team.
Well, I knew they regressed. I even said they would regress this year. I thought they went maybe 51, 50 games, maybe 49. I thought last year I thought they really overachieved last year. I thought the stars aligned. And by the way, I know they fired Kevin McHale last year. I don't think he deserved to be fired this early. Look, if this year turned out to be a flop, then fine, yeah, get rid of the guy. But 11 games in, and you're firing the guy. And by the way, they still suck.
Exactly, 51. If you're projecting them to win 51 games, that's basically just saying 4 games from last year that went their way going the other way. That's still a pretty tremendous team. I mean, this is just outright atrocious what's going on. And all I've watched Houston games. All it looks like is James Harden being a me-first player of I want my MVP, and he's killing that team.
Well, look. James Harden is a top 10 player in the league. He's the best 2 guard in the league by default, in my opinion. Okay.
I think after watching what's happened this year, I don't think you can go on the top 10 player.
Well, through 13 games.
If you're going by how this season has gone, he is not a top 10 player. He's not even a top 20 player in the league.
Dude, they're terrible. I think they'll figure it out because I think they'll get Dwight back, and Dwight will be able to play back-to-backs now and all that. And I think they'll hey, let's be honest here.
Yeah, but what can Dwight offer you if he's only going to get the ball 5 times a game?
That's true. That's good. That's a good point. Can we say something
if
here
your
that's shocking?
Player isn't allowed to the ball, there's a problem.
Can we make a statement here about something that people aren't realizing right now? That while the Western Conference is very top heavy with the Spurs, Warriors, OKC when healthy, Clippers when they figure it out. Right now, the East, top to bottom, is a better conference than the West is.
Oh, I don't think so.
Look at the records.
Yeah, it's by like 2 or 3 games, and it's early in the season. If you look at what Utah is doing right now, to be B500, Phoenix, their record, these are still better teams than teams that will make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference.
Well, it might still play out that way. I agree it will. But remember I told you before you started, I think the East will make a slight comeback and actually improve this year, and the West will take a little bit of a back seat only because of the fact, not back, that's the wrong word to use actually, is back seat, but more so take a step back because one of the things Go ahead.
That comes from Aldridge leaving Portland. Right there, you made one good team terrible and put a star player on an already loaded team.
Right. Well, a lot of the West a lot of the Western Conference too has been concentrating on top now. That's why.
I look at the Clippers as just an overrated team with a bunch of aging stars.
That team's a mess. That team's an absolute mess, and they have the biggest soap opera of the year. Them and Houston definitely. And I'm not a Harden fan, but I say the least. I've been saying it for years. I think the guy's overrated. I think he's granted he was great last year. I thought he definitely deserved to be in the conversation for MVP. Maybe even won it, but I think we're seeing the difference between Steph and Harden right now this year.
Oh yeah.
So my biggest surprise though is Dallas.
That's that karmic justice.
I don't know how it works out, man. The guy that they wanted at a max contract 3 years ago, they get the guy back for far less money and on great value in Darren Williams, and he's actually playing decent in Dallas this year. He's actually decent.
Oh yeah. Well, he feels like he has a shot at competing. And it's amazing what that will do for a guy who still has something left in the tank.
It's crazy. They're my surprise. Miami a little bit too, also for me, only because of the fact that I thought they would start slow, but the schedule kind of helps. But I feel like with the Heat, like their depth has actually been their strength more than anything else than their starting lineup. Outside Hassan Whiteside, and maybe a night here from Bosh and Wade, I thought their bench, like Justin Winslow, is truly an incredible player, and I think he's only going to get better as he gets older. Their bench is actually much better than I even thought. And I was big on the bench anyway before you started.
Are you with the point guard situation?
Pardon me?
Are you happy with the point guard situation?
I think the issue with the Heat and Dragic right now is more so. Okay, well, first off, Dragic had an issue with his family was overseas. They had a baby who they had a rough pregnancy and stuff, but they're back home now here in Miami. And I think a lot of it too also is the fact that the philosophy, like Dragic wants to run, and this team's a half-court team. So Spoelstra has to figure out a way to get this team space and all this stuff. There's a lot of work to be done on this team still right now, but to be 9-4 right now through 13 games is still pretty good.
Yeah, my surprise is the Pacers with how good Paul George is.
And not only that, remember, they started slow, too. They started slow. And
with your Heat, I'm kind of disappointed then because I looked at their talent and thought they'd be better.
With the Heat?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta remember, you gotta remember also, too, Zach, this team didn't play a single minute together for, this starting lineup didn't play a single minute together last year or in preseason as well. So right now they're a 2 seed in the East. I think they're and they have, and the thing is too, you're 9-4 with an offense that's still shaky, and you can still improve and get better. That's a good spot to be in right now.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I do want to talk to you about Les Miles. This whole Les Miles thing going on in LSU. We hear now that most likely a decision be made on him in his future with the Tigers after Saturday. Now, why we talk about Les Miles? Because he's my favorite college coach, and I've been sitting there for years. He eats grass, the whole nine. And most likely he's going to be out of a job. But this is what I don't understand. It's one word, Zach. Why? Why do they want to get rid of Les Miles? A guy whose record at LSU is in 10 years there has been phenomenal. Phenomenal. I don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't know why it's discussed that him and Mark Richt need to lose their jobs. And yet Kevin Sumlin is still being praised. That guy struggles against any top-tier team in the SEC, whereas Les Miles, when he loses to Alabama, he gives up the season. Before that, he can coach those guys. But once he suffers a loss, he does let LSU go down the tubes.
The guy is 110-32 in 10 years as a head coach, okay? He's won a national championship, been to another one, always in contention, in the toughest conference in college football for years. I don't understand. Look, I get that he's had some shaky seasons in the SEC the last couple of years. He went 4-4 last year and whatnot. He's 4-3 in the SEC. You know, I get LSU's not, you know, number two. Dude, this team was number 2 in the playoff rankings like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but that was before they had played half their schedule.
Right.
So when you go play a schedule and there's a couple of tougher teams on that schedule, you know, it does make a difference.
So if LSU fires this, look, Zach, if LSU fires Les Miles, this is what they're firing, okay? 11-2, 11-2, 12-2, 8-5, 9-4, 11-2, 13-1, 10-3, 10-3, 8-5, 7-3. That's what they want to fire.
All I heard was one national title.
Okay. So are they firing him because he can't beat Nick Saban? Is that what it is?
Oh, yes. And they think they're going to be able to bring in Jimbo Fisher, and Jimbo Fisher will resurrect their offense, and they'll be able to beat Alabama. But that's not the case. Jimbo Fisher at Florida State isn't going to beat Nick Saban in Alabama. If he goes over to LSU, he's going to be Jimbo Fisher with an average offense to go against Nick Saban's defense. He won't beat him. Your only way to beat Nick Saban is a defense. And Les Miles has that shot. He just needs to be willing to give up control of the offense.
Zach, if this goes down, if this firing goes down, this guy will have phone calls minutes after the firing.
Yeah, but I get the USC job.
Maybe the USC, or maybe Miami. No, they won't pay him.
Why would you want Miami if you could have USC?
I agree. They won't pay him, number one, enough, and number two, you know, yeah, yeah. Why Miami? I agree. I don't get it. You know, all I gotta say to LSU is, careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for. I mean, yeah, he can't beat Nick Saban. Well, so can't anybody else, really. Not many other coaches can.
The only person they would want on the wish list is Jimbo Fisher. And I would think you'd have to know whether or not you can get him before you fire Les Miles.
Let me ask you a question. If you're Jimbo Fisher, what's the better job, Florida State or LSU?
Florida State. It's an easier way to the playoffs.
Yeah, so why would you leave that to go to LSU? That makes no sense.
So that you can say you won the national title while coaching a team from the SEC.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I'm just saying, doesn't it sound a lot better to say you were an SEC coach that won national title versus an ACC team that won a national title?
I guess, but I'm also looking at it more. You know, I have a national title already. Florida State is a huge program, and one of the top 5-6 core games in the country. I don't know. I mean, I guess you're right to a point, but I don't know.
No, that would be my reason for why I would think he would leave. Is there is a stigma still attached to how great the SEC is. So to be able to win it all and go through an SEC conference would make you look like you're the greatest of your generation at coaching. And they all want to be the greatest. Let's not forget they're all playing for their own ego.
That's true. Did we miss anything else today before we let you go? Anything else? I think we're good, right?
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Yeah. Good show day, man. That's actually finally for like 3 weeks.
I know, it's fun.
Awesome.